want to thank you for coming tonight. Especially want to thank Shannon for your work, and Matt Benda too, who isn't here tonight, for their help in getting this off the ground, and we really appreciate that. A lot of flyers handed out at a couple of big parades, and that's a big deal for getting some exposure on this. I think before we begin, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if all of you will stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, here we go. Okay, I would like to start the evening with introducing the person who is here to speak to you tonight, my husband, Alan Quist. I am the campaign manager, and I can tell you a few things as a background that he won't be saying about himself, so I thought I might as well just begin by telling you a few things that you maybe know, maybe don't know. He is a businessman who owns and operates a farm. We farm in Nicollet County, and we have our son Nathan is running a lot of the farm right now while Alan is campaigning. Alan holds a Master's of Arts degree from Minnesota State University at Mankato. He's been the past member of a couple of school boards. He was professor of political science at Bethany Lutheran College in Mankato for 15 years. He served for 3 terms in the Minnesota House of Representatives. He was the chief author of the bill that transformed the State Welfare Department into the Minnesota Department of Jobs and Training. He was the chief author of the bill to legalize homeschooling in Minnesota. He has been recognized as a very highly influential member of the Minnesota legislature, and this was even when Republicans were in the minority. He's authored 5 books on issues of constitutional law and education. He was Minnesota State Chairman for 3 Republican presidential campaigns. And some of the things that along the way Alan has been responsible for, which has made a big difference in the state of Minnesota, has to do with the education system called the Profile of Learning that came through in the 90s. And he was the one that revealed that, studied it, researched it, came up with an analysis of it to let the public know the problems with this education system. And actually, it was a huge accomplishment, but over a period of a number of years, that whole Profile of Learning system was repealed. And that is seldom done for something that large of a change. We're looking at something similar along those lines right now with Obamacare at the federal level, and we need to repeal that too. And he has been very instrumental in uncovering the marriage tax within Obamacare. And if you want to ask him questions about that, you can. He is very much of a leader in that regard, who puts things out for the public, makes the case, and get something going so that people can make a difference in the government and in policy that affects them. So I would like to introduce to you the man who we would like to see as the next congressman from the 1st Congressional District, Alan Quist.
Thank you, Julie. I don't know if it's a good form to kiss your campaign manager on the way up, so I'll pass on that this time. Let's see. I'm trying to see how I can get most comfortable here. I'm going to move this here, and then I can stand without having the podium right in front of me. I think that'll work. One of the things that Julie didn't mention is that some years ago, maybe 10 or so, 12, one of the Minnesota publications had a list of the women that they identified as the 10 most powerful women in the state of Minnesota. And she was number 2 on the list. Okay? So obviously she's widely recognized as having influence. I normally don't say much about myself because I like to talk about, yes?
Did you say your wife was number 2?
Yeah, yeah.
She's your campaign manager?
Yes.
What else she do?
Boy, you name it, she can do it.
Did she run for office herself?
She did once. She holds a black belt in karate, so don't mess with her.
What did you run for?
It was a House seat up in South Minneapolis. One of those seats that Republicans never win.
Did she almost win? Or?
Well, you know, when you're, that's a tough, there are some seats that are tough for Republicans. That happened to be one.
Did she get out and knock on doors and really campaign?
You name it.
Wow.
She's done it. So like I say, I seldom talk about myself, but I'd like to add just a little bit this time to what Julie has said, because I think it's important for our discussion. She mentioned that I played a role, really the lead role in repealing the profile of learning. Let me just say what that was. It consisted of bureaucrats in St. Paul writing the lesson plans for the teachers. And so teachers ceased to be teachers. They became, what should we say, implementers of what the bureaucrats wanted taught. And as a teacher, I'm known as a politician, come on in, but my life is that of a teacher, as a teacher. And I can't imagine anything worse you could do to education than force teachers to teach lesson plans written by bureaucrats who aren't in the classroom. So that in a nutshell is what it was, and because I'm a teacher, I could spot what it was. And when I went out in public and described the profile and said we have to repeal this, I want you to know out of 4.5 million people in the state, I was there all by myself, one person. When I announced the marriage penalty in Obamacare, and let me explain how extraordinary it is. A couple, and I'm going to use just as an example here, hypothetical example, a couple making $60,000 combined income, $30,000 each, under Obamacare and private insurance will pay $10,425 more if they're married, as compared to living together unmarried or just being unrelated and living in 2 different parts of the country. So there's an extraordinary marriage tax in Obamacare. Now, if the couple has a combined income of $30,000, then the couple will pay $5,000 more if they're married. And you might say, well, at least that's not as bad. But how many couples have an extra $5,000 a year laying around to put into medical care? So I'm the individual who discovered that 2.5 years ago because I'm a researcher, and I tried to give that information to people in Washington, and with the exception of Michelle Bachmann, who knows me and trusts me, the researchers in Washington could not imagine that somebody in what they call flyover country could see something that they didn't see. And so I could explain it to them, and they couldn't see it, because their sense was, if the elite in Washington haven't seen this, it can't be true. Well, it was true. So about 2 months ago, Minnesota Public Radio did a fact check on what I just told you, and they call it their polygraph test, and they concluded, yeah, Quist is right in what he's saying. $10,425 more if you're married for insurance costs. Yes?
That's if you have no health insurance at work.
That is correct. That is correct. There's also a penalty for work at provided insurance, but it's not nearly as much. That is correct. It's private insurance. Yeah. One of the things Obamacare does, though, is it encourages businesses to shed their health insurance. And a lot of estimates are in the neighborhood of 20 million workers will be on the private system, because for big businesses, it's cheaper to put people on the public system than provide insurance. So private insurance, that's the extra cost. And it operates by tax credits. So in the tax credits in Obamacare, in the tax credits, 86% of the tax credits go to people who are not married. 14% go to married people. That pretty well tells the story too. So it's extraordinary discrimination against married people. That was also true in the IRS code before the Bush tax cuts. And there were a lot of people who paid $5,000 a year more on their income taxes in Minnesota if they were married as compared to living together unmarried. Now the Bush tax cuts repealed most of that penalty. But if the Bush tax cuts go back into effect, that marriage penalty in the IRS income tax code is going to come back into effect. So anyway, that's all preliminary. What I'd like to do is, in about 10 minutes, explain why I'm here and why I think we need to make changes. And then I would welcome your questions, your comments. And the way we do town halls is it's wide open. I want you to know we don't screen questions. A lot of politicians, when they do town halls, say, well, write your question. And the question goes to somebody who looks at them and decides, is this a question we want to have asked or not? We don't do that. We are totally freewheeling, very informal, and anybody can ask whatever they want. And that's one of the reasons why I personally enjoy town halls so much. So, why am I here? One of the things that I don't think Julie mentioned is that she and I have 10 children and 37 grandchildren. And I look at the America we are passing on to our grandchildren and I shudder. Let me just add to that. I received a call Sunday afternoon from an individual whom I know pretty well, and he's on the other end of the political spectrum. I'm over here as a conservative, and he's over here as, I mean, very, very liberal. Those of you who know me know I know lots of people. I work with anybody and everybody. But what he said to me, he asked me the question, Quist, what's your main message? And I said, we have to solve the deficit crisis. He said to me, I wake up in cold sweats in the middle of the night when I consider the deficit that our country is facing. And I think that's very, very interesting because you have myself who is, I mean, I am a conservative and this guy is a liberal, having a lot of common ground in seeing that. I want to mention too, when I'm in parades, as much as I can, I walk along the curb because I like to talk to people as much as I can. Sometimes parades move so fast it's tough, but as much as I can, I'm on the curb. And I always introduce myself this way. I say, hi, I'm Al Quist, candidate for Congress. I am the candidate who is committed to balancing the budget. And I would say I have introduced myself that way to 500 people so far, 1,000, I don't know, every parade. I have yet to receive one negative response. Okay? And I know I'm talking to independents, Democrats, Republicans, libertarians, liberals, conservatives, radicals, whatever. I have yet to receive one negative comment. And obviously there is a sense among the public that we are in real trouble. Now that real trouble is illustrated by this chart. And this chart describes our national debt from 1944 to the end of 2012. And the direction of the chart is quite obvious. And if any of you have seen the TV ad we're running, we have our granddaughter Lucia climbing the mountain of debt. Okay? If any of you happen to see that TV ad,
Good ad.
it tells the story, doesn't it? It tells the story. By the way, for those of you who haven't seen it, quistforcongress.com, you can see it on our website. We are running that ad about 5,000 times.
I was looking to see if I could see her climb.
Very good. Now, when you see the ad, you'll know what Bob is saying. Okay.